First, 21, 22, 23, and 24, People versus James Johnson, 22,593 FH, 22,701 FH, 25,1 FH, and 22,03 FH.
Jessica Blanchard, hearing the people.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Sam Bernstein with and on behalf of Mr. Johnson on the probation violation matters, and I'm also standing in for Ms. White, who was under the weather today and asked if I could stand in.
Okay.
Judge, Portia Priest is also here on behalf of Mr. Johnson.
Okay. Is there anyone else here on behalf of Mr. Johnson? Can you hear us, Mr. Johnson?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Today's the date and time set for pretrials in 3 of the matters, and then the violation of probation matters. There's quite a few of those. So I'm wondering, do we have, I mean, I know there was a Cobb's memorandum submitted. There was I'm going to say an equivocal response potentially from the prosecutor, i.e. it may be that this is sort of my usual response, that I may not in fact grant the request for a Cobb's agreement, but that this is certainly something you can ask for at sentencing based on what probation recommends. So that's probably how I'm going to proceed today. So I'm probably not going to agree to a Cobb's memorandum. I'm not going to make a People v. Cobb's agreement, but you're certainly well within your rights, Mr. Bernstein, Mr. Feaster, and anyone else to ask me for that relief at the time of sentencing. So how would you like to proceed today?
Yes, Your Honor. I've spoken to Mr. Johnson. I believe Mr. Bernstein has also spoken to him. My understanding is he's prepared to move forward today with the plea on all of these files. He can correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, let me specifically ask Mr. Bernstein, since you said you were doing it, are you comfortable proceeding without Ms. White here to enter a plea?
I am comfortable, Your Honor, yes.
All right. So now we can talk to Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson, what basically is on the table is that your lawyer has requested what's called a Cobb's agreement, where I would limit what I was going to sentence you to if you pled guilty today. I'm not willing to do that, but I'm also not closing the door to it at the time of your sentencing. But we're going to wait and see what probation says. We're going to wait and see what all the recommendations are. I don't know. I'm not promising you I'm going to do anything, but it's not off the table yet. So my question to you is, are you ready to proceed today to enter pleas in these cases? There are 3 separate cases, and then there is the violation of probation matter on an older case, but it alleges about, well, looks like there are 5 warrants. So there's quite a few alleged violations. So are you ready to proceed today on pleas on all of that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm going to have you raise your right hand to be sworn in.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right. Have you had an opportunity to go over all of this with Mr. Feaster, Mr. Bernstein, and or Ms. White before coming into court today so that you're fully informed on what's happening?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is it your intention to resolve these cases through plea agreements?
Yes, sir.
And those plea agreements include that you'll be pleading guilty to a number of crimes, correct?
Yes, sir.
And they also include you're going to plead guilty to a number of alleged probation violations, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What's kind of, what's happening here is that you're going to be pleading guilty. So there's no plea agreement, correct? So you're pleading straight up to all the violations and all of the charges.
No, Judge, no, actually, it's saying count 1 on each file.
Okay.
We're dismissing the remainder counts.
All right. So I take that back, sir. You're going to plead guilty in each of the files to 1 count in 22593 FH. That's resisting, assaulting, or obstructing a police officer. In 22701 FH, that's also resisting, obstructing, or assaulting a police officer. In 22003 FH, that is, looks like possession of controlled substance less than 50 grams. And then at the arraignment, you know what was alleged that you violated your probation. There are 5 different warrants with multiple counts. So you are prepared today to plead guilty on all of those charges and alleged violation counts, and that the plea agreement is that if you do that, then the prosecutor will dismiss the remaining counts on the 3 cases. Do you understand that?
Sir.
Okay. You understand that that's all a deal between you and your lawyers and the prosecutor. It's possible that at the end of this, at the sentencing agreement or the sentencing time of this, that I decide, I'm not comfortable with you. I'm not comfortable with the prosecutor dismissing those cases. I'm not saying that will happen. I can't think of a time where I've probably done that. But you just need to know it is possible that you're pleading guilty, but when it comes down to it, I might not allow the other things to be dismissed. You understand that's possible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Are you currently on, well, I know the answer to this, but are you currently on probation or parole? Because these guilty pleas in the other cases could affect your probation status. So the answer, I think, is yes, correct?
Yes, sir.
And are you ready to proceed even though it may have an impact?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Other than what's been stated in court, has anyone promised you anything to get you to plead guilty today?
No, sir.
Has anyone threatened you in any way to get you to plead guilty today?
No, sir.
Is the decision to plead guilty yours to make?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If you plead guilty and I accept your guilty pleas on all of this, you're not going to have a trial or a hearing of any kind, and you're going to give up certain rights. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to go over them because they're important. At a trial, you would have the right to be tried by it. These are on the three cases, the three felony cases, 22-593, 701, and 003. You'd have the right to be tried by a jury, to be presumed innocent until proven guilty, and to have the prosecutor prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you are guilty. At a trial, you'd have the right to have witnesses against you appear at the trial. You could question those witnesses, and if you needed witnesses for your defense, I would order their appearance. Finally, at a trial, you'd have the right to remain silent, meaning you could choose to not testify. That silence would not be used against you, but if you wanted to, you could testify. At the hearing on the the probation violations, you'd have the right to have the prosecutor prove by preponderance of the evidence that you violated your probation. You'd be able to testify if you wanted to, but you wouldn't have to. I would order witnesses there on your defense. You'd be able to question any witnesses against you or for you. But you're going to give up all those rights if you don't have the trial or hearing on that. You understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If I accept your plea, you cannot come back later and tell me your plea today was the result of any promises or threats that you're not telling me about right now. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Likewise, if I accept your plea today, you can't come back later and tell me it wasn't your choice to enter the plea today, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If I accept your plea on all of these matters, you give up your automatic right to go to the Court of Appeals. On all of the files, the guilty plea means you're not going to have a hearing or a trial, which means then if you wanted to appeal what happened, you'd have to ask the Court of Appeals to take the case. The Court of Appeals would decide whether it was going to hear it or not. I wouldn't. So you give up the automatic appeal. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Yep. Okay. And if I accept your plea, that means you're not going to have a trial and you won't be able to appeal anything that might have come up during the trial because wouldn't you know you're not having it, right? So you're giving up the right to appeal issues that might have come up during or after the trial.
Yes, sir.
Correct?
Yes.
All right. In file number 22-593FH, how do you plead to assaulting or obstructing a police officer?
Guilty.
Okay, on file number 22-701FH, how do you plead to assaulting, resisting, or obstructing a police officer?
Guilty.
I am having a hard time hearing you. Can you restate? Can you say that a little louder?
Yes, guilty.
Okay, and then in 22-003FH, how do you plead to possession of a controlled substance or manufacture of a controlled substance less than 50 grams?
Guilty.
There are warrants dated December 16th, 2020, October 12th, 2021, February 7th, 2022, March 7th, 2022, May 16th, 2022. They have multiple counts on them. You've been arraigned on those. You're aware of what those charges are. How do you plead to those alleged violations?
Guilty.
Okay. let me just start with the probation violation case. Counsel, do you believe that I have complied with MCR 6.445 in taking your client's plea?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And sir, do you, well, hold on, hold that thought. All right. Back to the other cases. On docket number 22701FH, on or about December 19th, 2021 through December 20th, 2021, Township of Ypsilanti, County of Washtenaw, State of Michigan, at or near, on I-94, at or near Rawsonville Road. Were you stopped by a police officer, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right. At the time you were stopped by the Michigan State police officer, did you know that that officer was just doing his or her duties and job?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you, in fact, assault, batter, wound, resist, obstruct, oppose, or endanger that police officer when they pulled you over?
Yes, I resisted arrest.
All right. And you knew they were a police officer, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. I guess we'll just do these one at a time. Counsel, do you believe that the defendant's answers to my questions on that docket are adequate to support the factual basis and to accept his guilty plea?
Yes, Your Honor.
Satisfied.
Okay. On docket number 22593FH, on or about August 8th, 2022, in the Township of Pittsfield, County of Washtenaw, State of Michigan, at or near 2201 Hogback Road, did you, in fact, assault or obstruct a prosecutor?
Yes.
Okay. You knew that she was acting as a prosecutor and doing her job and performing her duties?
Yes, sir.
All right. And she gave you no consent to assault, batter, wound, obstruct, or endanger her, correct?
Yes, I obstructed it.
And you did anyway, correct?
Yes.
All right. Counsel, I'll ask, do you believe that the answers to the court's questions basically give a factual basis to accept the client's guilty plea?
Satisfied, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Right? And then I'll just put my hands on the other information. There we go. All right. In 22-03FH, on or about April 7th, 2021 through May 19th, 2021, in the city of Ypsilanti, County of Washtenaw, State of Michigan, did you deliver or manufacture less than 50 grams of heroin at that time and place?
Yes, sir.
And you knew what you had was an illegal substance, namely heroin?
Yes, sir.
And you knew and you intended to deliver or manufacture that, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you knew that it was not a legal act, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Counsel, again, do you believe that the defendant's answers to the court's questions are fully cover the elements of the offense?
Satisfied, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Let me ask, in these three cases, has the court complied with MCR 6.302?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
And are either counsel, and you've already answered, Mr. Feaster, so good work there, but sit down. Has the court, are any of the lawyers aware of any promises, threats, or inducements other than those disclosed on the record?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
All on the record.
All right, the court finds the defendant's pleas of guilty are knowingly, understandingly, voluntarily, and accurately made in each of the cases, as well as the probation violations. Court is also satisfied that there is a factual basis to support the finding that you are guilty of the crimes of assaulting or obstructing a police officer, resisting, obstructing, or assaulting a police officer, and manufacture or delivery of controlled substance less than 50 grams, as well as each of the violations contained in the warrants and any additional violations, and the court will accept your pleas of guilty. Whew. All right. So prior to sentencing, you know there's going to be a pre-sentence report completed. Probation is going to meet with you and they're going to complete that report. So we will have you back here for probation for sentencing.
February 22nd.
All right, February 22nd. Is there anything to be done in the interim? Are there any bond arguments or anything?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. So we'll see you back here in February, sir, for your sentencing. Probation will reach out to you at where you are, okay?
Thank you, sir.
All right. I should ask. If any of you wish to be present during the pre-sentence interview, either Mr. Feast or Ms. White or you, I'm going to ask you just to coordinate with probation to make that happen.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you.